There you go.
And it's automatically recording. All right. Good afternoon, good morning, and other parts of the day for those of you internationally. This is the CSINext February chapter meeting. My name is Lane Bucher, and I am the president-elect of the CSINext chapter of CSI. And we have a very special presentation today. We have two experts in artificial intelligence with us. First, we have Ed. Ed, could you pronounce your name for me?
There you go, man. And nobody ever gets it Cilurso.
Cilurso. Okay. I was going to try it, but I didn't want to embarrass myself. So Ed
It's
is with ICC and is their director of digital technologies. Close?
I am something. I believe I
Yeah.
am called the senior director of something. I forget. So, yeah,
That's
I
my
work for
title
the
too.
ICC innovation team, and I do work on our AI.
Innovation team. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And Paul Gosselin with Archistar. And I met both of them and saw a similar presentation in Cleveland at the ICC conference last October. And so I invited them to come and present to an audience for CSI. And I want to welcome everyone to the webinar, and I'm going to turn it over to them. Gentlemen, start your engines.
All right. Thanks very much. All right, so everybody can see this. Yep, Paul and I will be speaking today. I'm going to start us off, and this presentation has a section at the beginning where I really talk about a core understanding of large language model AI, which if we're talking about AI in today's world, 99% of the time, that's what we're talking about. I'm going to then segue from there to talk about the ICC's AI Navigator tool, which has actually now been live for about 2.5 years. We were probably the first organization of our type to create a tool like that. And I can talk a little bit about both how it was created and then how it works today. I'll hand it to Paul. He's going to talk a little bit about a pilot we did with Archistar, which is now concluded, and then really dive into Archistar's use of AI for plan review. And then I cover a few other potential uses of AI within the building world at the end of the presentation, just to sort of broaden it out from the two things we've talked about. We don't really need the session outline. This is our basic section. There's a lot of vocabulary. I'm not going to read all of this to you, but I tend to not say AI as much as LLM, large language models. Generative AI is really where AI is creating new content, that whether it's just giving you that content as text or creating, when you'll see with Archistar, they're using generative AI to create layers on top of plans. Everybody's heard of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is certainly the most famous large language model chatbot. It's certainly not the only one. There are many these days. ChatGPT is still quite big. When I say digital codes, what I mean is the digital codes platform that the ICC hosts. Hallucination, I always like to put in here because that term does get used and rarely explained. Hallucination really is kind of when the LLM doesn't really have the right information or doesn't understand the answer it's giving to you well itself. And it kind of lies a little bit. That certainly happens. And evaluative modeling, I talk about the testing that we do of the AI Navigator tool. Evaluative modeling is really important. It's the kind of testing we do, and it is extremely important when you're trying to make one of these tools better at its job. All right, this 3-minute video here, I am going to actually run for you, so you don't have to listen to me for 3 minutes. I still use this video. I've used it for about 1.5 years now because honestly, I think it does a far better job explaining what LLMs are than many hour-long presentations that I've sat through. So I'm going to run this. Sometimes at the end of this, I need to exit the presentation and come back, depending on how cooperative PowerPoint is being. But here we go.
Chatbots like ChatGPT are all over the internet, helping with customer service or writing code, essays, and emails. And talking to them can feel remarkably like talking to something sentient. But don't be fooled. As ChatGPT and its cousins spread, it's becoming ever more important for us to know exactly what we're talking to. In the next 3 minutes, I'm going to explain what ChatGPT is, and perhaps more importantly, what it isn't. First, what is ChatGPT? AI chatbots are conversational agents based on what's called a large language model, or LLM. LLMs are neural networks that are trained on trillions of tokens, symbols and words taken from online documents. They learn the structure of this data and its patterns, and then, given an input or prompt, they generate plausible language that fits the patterns of their training material. They do this word by word, at each point analysing the information so far and generating the next statistically plausible token. It's a bit like an autocomplete, with some randomness added so it doesn't always give the same reply. This amount of randomness, called temperature, can be set low so the LLM picks only from the most likely options, or high so the LLM chooses from a wider range of possible next words. ChatGPT is a dialogue agent built on top of this model. It has some extra fine-tuning and hidden prompts to restrict and steer how it responds, and gives it the character of a helpful assistant. The latest versions of ChatGPT are also hooked up to different systems, so they can interpret and produce images as well as language prompts. So what is ChatGPT not? Well, it's not an independent agent. It has no intentions or self-serving goals. Its function is solely to generate dialogue one word at a time. It can't give a confidence level in its answer or fact check, and it has no concept of whether what it's saying is true or false. This has led a lot of people to say ChatGPT is not intelligent. But what does that mean? Some computer scientists define intelligence simply as being able to do tasks as capably as a human. In that sense, ChatGPT is intelligent when it comes to some tasks. But that intelligence is extremely limited. For example, ChatGPT fails simple logic puzzles that humans find easy. Another question is whether chatbots can reason or understand the world. LLMs build up vast internal models of how our language works, so some researchers argue that they effectively do understand the meanings of words and symbols. Others dispute that, partly because the comparison with human understanding is so limited. LLMs don't experience the objects and concepts that our language describes, and their objective is only to generate plausible next pieces of data. But what about in the future? Could AIs like ChatGPT one day be the root of more general intelligence, able to match humans at a wide range of tasks and solve unfamiliar problems? That's what many computer scientists are aiming for. Some think that they just require more data, more processing power, and more bits of AI software hooked together. Others say that the underlying mechanism of generating responses word by word will simply never be enough. It might take new and different types of breakthroughs for AI to achieve a more human-like intelligence, if that ever happens. For now, though, it's important that we all understand how ChatGPT is coming up with its human-sounding responses, and that we avoid being fooled as to its true nature.
Okay, let me get it to jump. It doesn't look, oh, there we go. I got it to jump. All right. All right, so I still really like that video. Honestly, I've looked for a replacement because it's like 2.5 years old and none of them are better. What did we learn? Large language models are trained on large sets of words. They're giving you the most likely next words needed. They combine words in the background over much larger sets of resources than you or I could ever do. They're not sentient. They can't fact check. If you want accuracy from artificial intelligence and large language models, you have to make fact checking part of what you're instructing it to do and come up with strategies to do that. These chatbots do have limits. Understanding their limits really does help you use them. And there isn't definitely any perfect agreement. I try to stay on the pulse of what the new models are or what the new capabilities are. And I can tell you that there are new tools that we've trialed that we think are actually don't look like they're an advancement at all, and others that do look like they're going to be a lot more effective. But I've seen both certainly in the past year or two. I put this slide up there and I leave this up there because honestly, I feel like this is the slide that if you take nothing else away from this presentation, it's the most important thing. Your questions are really the key. Most AI is going to try to answer any question. Better AI systems, systems that are trained on specific types of content or specific parameters for research or calculation, they're going to really intercept questions that are not relevant to their purpose. And that's usually the sign. If you see a chatbot that actually doesn't answer your question and gives you a logical reason why, you're probably dealing with a chatbot that's been more specifically trained. I can't stress enough that the most important thing in dealing with chat tools for AI is to divide fundamental information. There is a lot of research out there, and I can certainly back it up with results from the ICC's own research that, long questions and long narrative and 6-point instructions within a single instruction to AI is just not that effective in most cases. It's far more likely that the AI is going to come up with sort of the wrong context and the wrong results. So if you have something that's really a 6-point question, if you can break it into 5 or 6 questions and ask them in a logical sequence, it's much more likely that really any AI chat tool is going to do better with that than if you stuff them all into one question. Okay, this section I'm going to talk about AI Navigator, which I work on just about every day at the ICC. I got to the ICC in 2022. I did have a background working with artificial intelligence tools to some degree in academic publishing. I was asked to evaluate how AI would work for building codes, and I came up with some great reasons why I thought it was a great idea. Our codes are published online. They are pretty complete online. The answers within those codes are not subjective, which is great. And they are really notoriously hard to search. If you've used the Digital Codes platform and typed in means of egress into the search bar, you know that you are getting far too many results for you to ever effectively use. So a way to refine that to provide people a more direct lookup to find the better content is great. But it is really tricky. There's a lot of code books out there with 1,000 Post-it notes in it that I've seen, hard copy code books, and that's because the codes go back and forth and cover a lot of areas. There are often a lot of options within the codes, including different code books, different sections of those code books. So topics are covered in a different context in lots of different areas. That is very tricky. We found that extremely tricky for just ChatGPT to understand. When we trialed this initially just with that, we saw that we really needed to do more than just a very basic prompt for the AI. The building codes do repeat terminology often, and they use tricky structures. What do I mean by tricky structures? I mean my least favorite structure, which is exceptions. If you use the codes, you know that a lot of the codes are written with exceptions. There will be a clear 1 or 2 sentence statement, and then there will be anywhere from 2 to 5 to 10 exceptions to that. This is actually a really tough notion for artificial intelligence to understand. Out of the box, it tends to struggle with it. And it's something that we've spent a lot of time specifically trying to coach our AI on. We did actually early in 2023 conduct an analysis. At the time, ChatGPT 3.5 was the newest model. It is now like 5. There's a couple variants of 5.1 now, but at 3.5 at the time was the best. It only showed about 30% accuracy on answers, and it was extremely poor at sourcing. ChatGPT would do better than this today. I've tested it fairly recently, and it's probably closer to 50 and 30. But it's still, if you're asking it dedicated questions about something like building code, it's not really the best tool for the purpose. We then developed AI Navigator. We wanted to launch it for our annual meeting in 2023. That was a decision that probably took years off my life, but we did manage to test and release our first version of it. It probably was about 85% accurate at the time we released it. We were pretty happy with that. That was probably a little better than we thought we might do. Today, we would be appalled by that. It's certainly been refined over time. When we grade it out, it is over 95% accurate on the questions it gets from our users. It has grown steadily, its use. We crested 110,000 questions asked from our users in January, which is great. And it's getting 8,000 plus questions a month. I think we'll get to 10,000 questions some month in the next few. There's a chart showing that it has grown a lot. I would say this is more usage than I necessarily expected if you would have asked me in 2023. And it's encouraged us to continue to enhance it and try to integrate it further into our platform. I I've used this example. I've used you may, if you've ever seen me present, I have other examples of questions like this. A lot of times, if you're talking about building code, it's very deceptive if you talk to a general chatbot because they produce what sound like good answers in most cases. So this is a very basic question. Is there a minimum temperature a home heating system must be able to provide for? And asking a general chatbot, I get an answer. And if you were to read this entire answer, and I will not read it to you, it sounds good. It's an extremely well-written answer. And it says, the norm is around 68 degrees, and it may need to be capable of maintaining higher indoor temperatures. That sounds fine. It's incorrect. It is a hallucination based on the fact that there's variance in the code in terms of different climate zones, different settings, different types of construction, and it's not capable of making all those connections. If we answer this with a trained chatbot, this is AI Navigator, and this is me asking it last year to AI Navigator. AI Navigator is not as fun to talk to. I will admit that for sure. It acts more like a librarian, and it does sort of very quickly give you a direct citation to say, here's where you should be looking in the code, and then it gives you whatever interpretive information it can as briefly as possible. In this case, it gives you the correct answer, which is to say a lower minimum temperature for a heating system is okay in some areas. Our tool then always links directly to the 3 best references and code sections, and you can use those right on our platform. So how does this come together? I just talk about this sort of in 3 things. The first is the hardest to explain and really the hardest for me to intuitively understand. There's a customized database. All the data that our AI tool has access to is in its own customized vector database, which means everything is turned into zeros and ones and is optimized for our AI tools. We have actually changed the structure of that database several times since we launched it. And there's a lot of research that goes into that area. There's a lot of people doing work on how to best create those databases for AI. We have highly customized prompts, much more so than what would be the norm. If you ask a 6-word question, so our drinking fountains required in restaurants is a 6-word question. Honestly, AI Navigator will get about 600 words of instruction. It has a prompt. It has directives underneath that prompt. It has contingencies based on the information it finds, and all of those are defined very specifically to it. Now, the good news is creating instructions like that can be done by people like me. I'm not highly technical. I'm not a programmer, or haven't been in a very long time. And that's wonderful because it really speeds our options. We can tweak those prompts very simply and see how they do. But we do have to test constantly, and that is the downside. And literally, our AI Navigator tool is tested every day. And what we've done at the ICC, which I think has been a huge help, is we've used the fact that the ICC employs a lot of technical experts. They have reviewed hundreds of questions and helped draft what they think are the best possible short answers to those questions. And what we do is with every change we make to the programming of our AI tools, we actually ask it those same questions again, and we rank its output against sort of the best human answer to those questions. And that has proven incredibly useful. And again, that tends to be something that is happening with people who really try to build very specific tools like this. It's the very best way to evaluate, are the changes and upgrades we're making having a positive impact on our AI? If you've never used AI Navigator, this is what it looks like. If you go to its homepage, you select the area you're working for. It defaults to answering about RI codes to the model codes, but you can select any state you want to, and you can select, depending on the state, from multiple cycles on those states of their codes. And you literally just start typing and ask questions. This is a shot I should replace because there is also a history bar on the side now. We added that last year so that you can see the history of your past sets of questions and answers as well. That was a lot of demand from users. We did not have we only had the last 3 questions you asked at first. And our users quickly told us that they wanted to share and save all of their questions. So we did expand to allow them that. Just in October of last year, so only about 4 months ago, we tested and released a new feature, which were section summaries. So we have dynamically generated summaries that can summarize single sections or quite large sections of the code and provide something with, again, citations involved and sort of key points summaries of those sections. It's been quite a popular feature since we've released it. It strangely enough took a whole different set of testing and programming to get it to work very consistently, but we're pretty happy with it now that we think it's doing the best job that this type of tool can do. So that is AI Navigator. If you've never tried it, I certainly invite you to try it. We are actually working right now on a conversational mode of it. So AI Navigator was built as just a point-to-point. It answers every question individually. So it's not as chatty as some chat tools are. One of the pieces of feedback we've gotten from our users there is would love to chat with it more. We've resisted that, not because we don't think that'd be fun, but because we want it to stay accurate and stay really good at what it does. So we're in the process of testing, and probably sometime within the next, I would say 2 to 4 months, we'll have an upgrade with an option for people to have conversations with it and ask it a large series of questions.
Ed,
yes.
We had a question in the Q&A pane from Daniel Hargreaves.
Sure.
Do you know what drives the accuracy from AI?
So, I mean, no single thing drives the accuracy perfectly. So if I'm talking about a tool like AI Navigator, we derive the accuracy from it by that level of testing and by making sure that it has highly customized instructions. So again, we're actually using a couple of different models. It doesn't actually work off a single model. A tool like AI Navigator actually combines 2 different models. In the end, the writing portion of it, the final authoring of its answers, actually is done by OpenAI using some of the same tools that power ChatGPT. But we don't actually find those tools are as accurate in doing the lookup and the research. So we use totally different tools to research the answers. So the environments underneath, and I think this is true for a lot of specialized chatbots these days, they're getting more sophisticated where you're really trying to use the best possible tools and sort of a never-ending set of enhancements. It also includes just looking at specific questions it had trouble with. We do that every month. We look at specific areas of the code or questions that it's had problems with, and we really do at times introduce prompt updates or small instructions that are very specific to certain areas. One of the big ones that has a lot of custom programming within AI Navigator is the difference between commercial and residential codes. Because the same areas and answers exist in both, and sometimes the IBC or the IRC. If you provided enough context for a note of what you're asking about, AI Navigator is much better than a general chatbot at sort of dividing that answer and making sure it's sourcing that.
I have noticed that the accuracy is a little better with the model codes than it is with the location-based codes.
And the reason for that in general, funny enough, is just the amount of times it's been queried against those codes. So that also affects the accuracy. We don't actually necessarily, I can't sit here and tell you that I know why that is, but certainly the more time. So we've actually started using some of the state codes as our test beds so that more testing in the background is going on with those codes, because we've actually noticed the same thing. It's a pretty small difference, but it is slightly more accurate overall, asking about model codes, probably to the tune of about 10% more accurate. And we really do believe that's just because of the sheer number of times it's referenced those codes.
So I got another question here. Will the AI Navigator be linked for show up seamless when working in a codebook section versus a separate web location? And I know the answer, but I'll let you answer that.
It is now integrated into the codebooks itself. So if it is a codebook that is covered by AI Navigator, and there are some older ones and a few state ones that are not covered by it, but the vast majority of the codebooks are, then the AI Navigator icon is going to appear within the codebook as you're in the sections. It looks, I always call it the Star Trek phaser. I don't actually have it in this presentation, but you can see it within our premium tools that are there. So if you're a premium subscriber, you can see the AI Navigator option there, and it allows you to select that you want a summary of the content that you're on top of, or that you want to ask a question about that content. So yeah, we did. That's something we introduced last year as well. You don't have to go to a separate tab to ask it questions anymore.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And that was a good transition point. So I'm happy to answer a few questions. And if there's more at the end, that's absolutely fine. But I am going to hand this to Paul. Paul, you can just prompt me to get through these slides as you need to. I will happily do that for you. But Paul's going to talk about ArchiStar, who the ICC has worked with now for, it's getting close to 3 years as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ed. Thanks, Lane, for inviting me on. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about ArchiStar and what we're doing here in the industry. My goal for today is I have a couple of minutes to present. Normally, I present what I'm about to present in about an hour and a half. I'm going to try to talk you through it in about 7 minutes. So I appreciate the time. But really, what I want to talk about today is how you and your role can leverage AI, right, to streamline your everyday activities around the permitting and plan review process. And the goal for ArchiStar is to try to create a world where every building can be designed and improved with speed, transparency, and confidence. And so my name is Paul Gosselin. I'm the regional sales director at ArchiStar. I reside currently in Minnesota, but I grew up in New Hampshire. So Samantha, I see you in the chat, and good to see a fellow New Hampshire native that's out there in the wild. And what I'm going to talk about today, before I get into what we're doing with the ICC and the pilot, is just kind of set the stage on who ArchiStar is, just at a high level. And really us as an organization and what we do with AI is we believe we can streamline your process and your permitting and plan review process by providing better quality submissions. And how do we do that? We go on the pre-front side of the applicant side, and we try to provide the applicant with the answers to the test. And I'll show you that here in a minute. And the goal is if the city or the municipality can receive better quality submissions and drawings, you'll be able to validate and move through exceptions rather than having to do the entire plan review process. And so we've been going throughout the country working with the ICC and leveraging what municipalities are doing alongside their building code. The core of our platform is digitizing the ICC codes into not only either your planning and zoning ordinances, but also your building codes, and taking the drawings and validating them against those codes. And so to start to figure out if we have a successful model here, we went out and we piloted 11 participants, 11 municipalities alongside these chapters of the ICC code. And we learned a lot, right? We learned a couple of things. The first thing we learned is that even though there's a standardized building code, each individual municipality or local region has a subset of those building codes, right? So if we're going to offer anything to the marketplace, it has to be configured for the local municipalities and the local level. And then we also had the ability to check in regards to what's important, right? What are the checks that can save time to your municipalities? Like, what are the most important checks to have on that pre-check front that will save you and your team's time on the back end? And so that was the goal of our pilot with the 11 municipalities. We were very successful in terms of taking the code, digitizing it, and allowing them to validate drawings against it. And so a lot of those municipalities that started with the pilot have moved forward with ArchiStar and are continuing their journey to a more digitized environment using AI. Let's just talk a little bit about the platform, and then I'll get in specifically. So what we have is a pre-check platform that leverages AI. We have the platform for the applicant, right? What does the applicant see? And I'll show you a couple of screenshots around that. But what we try to do is use a native GUI GIS layer where the applicant can find the parcel of land or where they want to build, and they can see the planning and zoning and building ordinances around that parcel of land, right? We have a technology then called AI completeness check. So the applicant would submit their drawings for the application into our technology, and we would give the applicant an overall readiness score. Do you have all of the information needed to submit to the municipality to start your permit application? Okay. From there, we have a technology called drawing analysis. It's our module. Our drawing analysis digitizes the codes and checks the drawings for compliance of those codes. And I'll show you some screenshots of that as well. And then last but not least, we leverage our technology to allow you to be more proactive with your outreach to the community around codes or ordinances that they're getting wrong. And it allows you to visually see the influx of applications that you're about to receive into the municipality. And I'll show you some screenshots of those. So Ed, can you go to the next slide? So as an applicant, I just have the ability to sign up within your local municipality. And I talked about the digital map. I would click on the map or the parcel of land that I want to build on. I would get some cool GIS information that can be either derived from the Archistar platform, or we can leverage the GIS layers and mappings that you have today. The applicant would then submit the drawings for the application type that they're looking to build on that platform. Okay, go ahead, Ed. And so what the applicant would see here, right? They would see based on this address, here are the documents that I'm going to submit. And once they submit, they're going to get an overall readiness score. Go ahead, Ed. So this is what our AI completeness does. We've now taken that packet of information that's being submitted to you, the jurisdiction, and we've given the applicant a readiness score. And it's built around a couple of things. So not only are we checking for drawings, do you have the right information for that application type? As you can see on the screen here, we're talking cover sheets, site plans, elevations, could be any mathematical metrics that are needed. Some municipalities, they require signature of drawings, things like that. Not only are we able to check that, we're actually able to use AI to get deeper into the drawings. And so not only are we checking that you've got specific drawing types, we have the ability to check, okay, do you have a title block? Is there a north arrow? Do you properly have bathrooms, lot dimensions, setbacks, whatever is needed for you to start your evaluation or plan review process at your municipality? We're able to check those. And we have about 42 application types out of the box with our completeness check. And the goal for this is to be something to be able to be deployed within weeks. And it sits before your permitting process, your application permitting process. And so we've seen a lot of jurisdictions starting to take this on in their municipalities, because what they found is their permit techs are often, right, rejecting the applications that are coming in because it's missing a lot of information, right? We were working with a fire department within the US the other day, and distance traveled is something that's never put into their plans. And so we're going to validate when an applicant submits their drawings that they've been able to put distance traveled, right? And they have the ability that's measured, calculated, and they've got a table on the side, okay? So that's our completeness check. Think about that as, hey, I've got a packet of information that I want to submit for my permit. Here it is, Mr. or Mrs. Municipality. We are now giving them an overall readiness score to tell them, hey, are they going to approve this the first time, or will it be rejected, right? After an applicant gets their completeness check form, they have the ability to submit their drawings in for code compliance. And we'll go to the next slide. Poor Ed, I think you got to be careful not to reboot your system. Go to the next slide, please. And so what I'm going to show you is some key examples of what an applicant would get once they've submitted their drawings into our AI drawing analysis system. And so what the applicant would receive is they would receive an email that says, thank you for submitting your drawings into your jurisdiction. Your drawings have been analyzed against our code set, and here's the summary of your results. And so what you're seeing here is our drawing analysis platform, where we're visually showing the applicant in real time. Here's the set of drawings that you have here on the right-hand side, and here's a summary of results. And so as an applicant, I'm able to see now that the drawings that I could possibly submit into the municipality, 3 clauses have passed, 1 have failed, and 9 others are checked, but the municipality may or may not be checking for that as they're going through. Next slide. Not only do we give a summary of the results, we also give them what we call checks and crosses. We give them kind of what I call that answers to the test by telling them, hey, based on that code check, right? Your drawings are either meeting the expectations or you're not meeting expectations. And the cool part about our application is we are visually telling the applicant this on the left-hand side of the screen. And as they click in onto each individual code, they're able to see not only more information, next Ed, they're able to see a couple of things. They're able to see the clause, right? They're able to say, hey, R3031.1 AI is all about habitable rooms. Here are all of the mathematics and information that went into this code check for us within your drawings. And here's a visual indication on the drawings where it has passed and where it has failed. And we are doing that clause by clause because the goal is not only for the applicant to see what they've passed and what they've failed, but it's to allow them to understand why they've passed and what they've failed. And some of the cool things that we are doing at Archistar that is bringing value to you and your teams is we're augmenting the drawings. And so if you see on the right-hand side, we're labeling the dining rooms, the living rooms, and we're also providing the square footage. And so really what we're doing with our AI platform for permitting to try to streamline it is we are doing deterministic rules. So think about measurements, geometry, scaling, yes or no answers. That's what we're providing out of the box with our AI technology. And so we are passing that over to you to validate, and then we're allowing you to take on more of the human side of the fact that it requires a lot more thinking and handling on your side, okay? Next, Ed. And so the applicant, as they go through the clauses and codes within our validation, we're actually taking the entire subset, and every clause that we're checking, we're giving the applicant only the visual drawings that they're seeing based on that code. And so what you're seeing here is a setback compliance. We're showing that based on their submittal, we're validating their setbacks and their detached garages and the backup space through the aerial post, the site plan, and the other one. And so you may submit a drawing set of 300, 400 pages, and we may check a lot of them, but as we go through each deterministic rule, we're streamlining the drawing so that the applicant knows where we are checking, so that if it passes or fails, they have the ability to see where it fails and then what they need to change on those drawings. Okay, next slide. So here are a couple of different examples, but of us augmenting the drawing. So not only are we giving the square footage, we're not only labeling bathrooms, smoke alarms, but we're also providing clearance zones as well. So in this example, if I were able to turn the legend on and off, what you'd be able to see is that that smoke alarm is actually sitting within 3 feet of a bathroom that has a shower. The shower creates steam. That is not up to code in LA County, where this is being leveraged. And so the applicant saw that they did it wrong. They resubmitted their drawings less than a day and a half later. They moved the smoke alarm a couple of feet to the right. Their drawings then passed and they were able to submit. I mean, if you think about it, these are all areas that are simple changes that can be done, right? But when it comes into the municipality and you give them a correction or you give them a whole list of deficiencies that they may have, it may take them multiple months to change. But because we're on the front end side, right, they're changing that before it actually gets to you in the municipality, which what we've seen in our customer base for review cycles has taken it from anywhere from 3 to 6, reducing that by about 55%. So think about the time savings from you as a jurisdiction on your end. Next, Ed. We also provide minimum glazings. I just wanted to show you some examples. I'm not able to show you a live demonstration, but some cool things that we can show. We convert these drawings back into more of a 3D mode, so we can do minimum glazing based on square footage, based on the window size and all of the cool measurements and percentages that you need as well for habitable rooms. Next, Ed. We can do minimum dimensions, maximum dimensions, setback dimensions, distance between properties, all of the things that you may be manually calculating today. Next slide, Ed. We could do ceiling heights, interior, exterior, elevations. Like I said, things that can be measured, and we provide these back to you in the jurisdiction for validation. Next slide. And then we can also do sanitation, right? Does it have the proper bathroom, shower, ADA requirements, right? Is the level of spacing between the toilet and the shower and the distance between the shower and maybe the door entry and things like that? Are they up to standards? So we have the ability to measure and check for all of those calculations with our platform. Next, Ed. And then last but not least, because our technology is tracking down by the code ordinance, we can get some really cool analytics for you in the jurisdiction. And so you have the ability at your fingertips to see all of the applications that are coming through for our drawing analysis. And you can start to get some really cool analytics. And so what you're seeing here is for the not like for like rebuilds in LA County, here are the most passed rules, most failed rules. And then it details, it breaks down. And so real life case study is, LA County then went out and talked to the community about why the trees on the plans were failing and what they needed to do to provide better drawings, right? Or quality drawings of where to put the trees, how many trees, types of trees, things like that. And so think about it when it comes to you in your jurisdiction. I mean, there could be rules that you're seeing all the time that are failing. With this analysis, you can actually see that in the forefront and start educating the community on the back end. And then last slide. And then lastly, there's a portal so that you can see where they're building, where people are submitting, how many folks are in the queue to submit, and when they should be submitting. And so if you've ever got staff issues or capacity issues at your jurisdiction, you can start to see what is coming in to the plan review process before it comes in. And so
there are a couple of questions
ahead.
in the chat before you
Okay.
move on here. So is the program able to do preliminary checks, SD, DD, or only CD phase checks?
We can mostly do them all.
Okay. And then can Archistar review commercial building permits?
Yes, I showed single family home. It's an easier example,
Sure.
but yes. Yeah.
And then I have someone with their hand up. I'm going to unmute her carefully and let her talk. And go ahead. Did you have a question?
I think she was just trying to high five me.
It could be. All right. Well,
Okay.
all right. Let's move on then.
Okay. So I've got just a few more slides left on here. What's next for AI? I try to talk about other areas besides what we've talked about with Archistar and what we talked about with AI Navigator. Visual inspection tools that are doing visual measurement and looking at pictures and really identifying objects within inspections. These tools exist now, and we do work with some of them at the ICC in terms of licensing them content and helping them evaluate results. I think these tools, a lot of them at this point are sort of, I think, in their infancy. A lot of inspection tools are out there, are recording video right now, and are creating sort of AI-generated checklists based on the audio. But there is more and more work going on taking that to even a higher level with AI. AI tools for designs and plugins. Architects themselves are getting numerous plugins that are AI enabled for AutoCAD and Revit and the tools they use. Some of these are really designed as drawing tools, but some of them are compliance tools that cover some of the same ground that Archistar covers for municipalities in terms of checking plans, where they're doing pre-checks. Again, some of those we're working with right now and licensing content to that are really designing it and focusing it on designers themselves. Document organization interpretation. There are applications we're working with now that really are trying to cross the bridge beyond just looking at plans or just looking at static information or even just looking at code information and really trying to check all project documents. So everything that could be involved in sort of bringing in disparate documents and having an AI layer that can say, what's in these documents? What information do you have? Where is this information hiding? Again, we definitely see construction businesses and architecture businesses that want to use programs like this. And just this is not a specific application. This is sort of my talking point of the rules really are changing. Information that used to be very inefficient to try to combine today can be combined. A good example of that, we're actually licensing ICC code to a company that creates AI sales tools for people that manufacture building products. And what they want to do is sort of, again, get their salespeople and their people that are not knowledgeable to line up products against code specifications as well, and to be able to do it without those people having to have a deep knowledge of building code. So those types of use cases, honestly, would have been extremely inefficient or way too expensive to build integrations for in the past. But AI really allows you to use a tool that you don't have to spend a lot of money on to start to tackle those kind of problems. Okay, very quickly, I do work for the ICC innovation team, even though I don't always know my own title. There's a lot of solutions and services within that innovation team. I work on a lot of our content solutions and tools, but they are involved in lots of other areas. The Digital Codes platform I mentioned, if you have used it, but maybe haven't used it recently, you should definitely check it out because it has a lot of new tools on it. Not just AI tools, but also extra databases, more content, a lot there. There is a new graphic search on there that released last year that actually is an AI tool. I did some work on that tool as well. You can now search for graphics and not suffer what you used to suffer with the ICC, which is to get the same graphics repeated again, or not to necessarily get the most relevant graphics. But we have something that I think works a lot better if you're looking for images. Two other things that I do work on, we have a database of actually human answers from our ICC technical team. They nominate their own sort of best of questions that they get and answer. They answer thousands of questions every year on the code. So we're taking the very best of those and we're doing sort of written versions that are now attached to those code sections. I think that's great. There's a service that's more focused on sort of architects, a quick consult service for those code opinions as well. Our members get code opinions and a lot of code officials use us. But that service is more geared towards providing that AEC community a resource and a quick response time for their questions. I've talked about AI Navigator, so I need to talk about it more. I think this is the last of my slides. There's a next generation of the ICC's Municity platform coming out. I have seen this. I am certainly not an expert in these types of platforms, but that next generation is rolling out now. I'm very impressed that it looks a good bit more modern and is offering a much better interface for the towns that use it for permitting and a lot of their documentation, document storage. Okay, we've made it through in about 50 minutes, which is good time. Our contact information is here. I always welcome people to reach out to me with questions, but we certainly have time if anybody has any other questions.
So we don't have any open questions in the Q&A pane. If you have questions, please type them in and we'll try to answer them. I saw some applause though, so that's good.
Always nice.
And all right. So another thing I saw was, and I've actually done it. I've embedded the digital codes into my Revit application.
Yep, we do have a plugin for Revit. I don't actually have a slide on it there, but Eric, who manages it, is actually one of my coworkers who I work with a good bit. And a full plugin for the larger AutoCAD application is coming, actually, that'll have it. And it actually does have the AI Navigator in that plugin as well, which is nice as well, because I think actually for a lot of people that use Revit, that's what they really want to be able to ask a question. So I think it's a nice addition we've made relatively recently to that.
Okay. And I got a question, where can I find the video he showed? So
that video, actually, I don't know if the link's embedded in the PDF I gave you, but I will pass that link on actually as well. So I'll dump it in the chat here. Let me stop sharing this presentation.
Well, and we have recorded this session, so it will be posted to CSINext's YouTube channel.
Okay, great.
And I
will go ahead and dump into the chat the link itself so that you can get.
Sounds good. So if you go to YouTube and search for CSI Next, our channel should show up.
Yep.
And give us a few days, maybe a week or two, and that should show up.
Great.
And there's some more questions. So Lane, can you explain how you use it with your AutoCAD application? Well, it's actually Revit, and I just embedded it as a test. I took a BIM certificate from Columbus State Community College, and I had a copy of Revit, and I just plugged it in, and I haven't really used it because I'm not a heavy user of Revit in my day-to-day. So Danielle says, where can pricing be found? So I'll let you.
I'm assuming that might be for ArchiStar.
Could be either one, and you know the AI Navigator is part of the digital premium.
It is part of the Digital Codes Premium, so you can actually get a free trial to Digital Codes Premium, and then after you've used it for a couple of weeks, they will then try to sell you. You can do monthly or yearly or 3-year sort of subscription packages to whatever suits.
Okay.
On the ArchiStar side, sorry, Lane. On the I'm happy to provide pricing to the team. It's fairly easy. My email is in the deck that will get sent out. Feel free to send me an email, and it's part of it is based on size of jurisdiction, so that's why I can't just blurt things out at this point. But I can provide pricing to anyone who needs it.
And you're geared toward pricing for governmental entities at this point.
Correct. Yes.
Do you have a pricing model if a firm wants to use it to quality check their plans before they submit them?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And it's archistar.ai, is that right?
Yes. Yep. That's
All
our
right.
website, archistar.ai.
Yes. And I'm sure your pricing models are there. So, all right. I think that covers all the question. Is there a trial option for ArchiStar?
Trial depends on what you mean. You can do there is a paid pilot. You can do a paid pilot. There is no, we don't have like a free playground or sandbox for you to play in, but we do offer pilots. Yes.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, I think that's it. We're a few minutes early, but thank you both very much. This has been wonderful. And like I said, I posted in the chat that for continuing education, you should get a survey through your email that will allow you to fill out a form. When you say yes, you want to report it to AIA, put your AI member number into the field that's beside that, and we'll take care of that for you. And
Okay.
anything else for the good of the order?
No, thanks for having us. I do always appreciate the chance to do these.
Well, thank you very
Thank you.
much. This has been great, and have a great day. Bye, everybody.
By the way.